Welcome to another episode of the Logicast. My name is Blankakong. I'm joined by Gunner Eos, Huddle Wolf, and Mr. Esoteric Skills, our fearless leader. Today's topic, or this week's topic, is going to be an interesting one, we'll say. Maybe a controversial one, depending on your perspective. But while I was on Reddit, just kind of perusing the meme pages, I stumbled across this meme that you're seeing on screen right now. And it's of Ironheart and Iron Man. And I didn't see the show, full disclosure. But in the meme, Riri, who's Ironheart, who is his successor, says a line saying, "I need cash, money. Do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire?" And then on the bottom half of the meme, it's Tony Stark in the first Iron Man movie in the terrorist cave working on prototype Iron Man suit, essentially. Tony Stark, and it reads, Tony Stark in a cave being forced at gunpoint into slave labor, building a Mark One out of a box of scraps. And I've mastered nuclear fusion. So, to give Miss Williams a little credit, I don't think she's entirely wrong in the statement of Tony Stark wouldn't be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire. Just like I think Batman wouldn't be Batman if he wasn't Bruce Wayne, who's also a billionaire. I think money carries a lot of weight as far as what you can do and how you can maneuver in the world. I think that's true, and I think that's generally what the message was trying to convey. But at the same time, Tony Stark in canon was able to create the Iron Man suit out of let's just say less than desirable material in a less than desirable atmosphere where his life was in danger. He was able to do that in high stress, and he was able to deliver on something that the world had never seen up until that point. And if we continue on with the cinematic storyline in Iron Man 2, after he admitted that he was Iron Man and all that, there were like Hammer Industries and other companies were trying to replicate what he had did in the cave, and they couldn't do it. And so the whole out of a box of scraps comes from like a line in the first movie where I forget the character's name, but
It was
one of the
Stain,
say again.
Stain?
Abadiah Stain, or
Abadiah. Okay, I was like, I don't remember Abadiah. Yes, so it was that character who he was like yelling at a scientist. He was like, Tony Stark was able to do this in a cave with a box of scraps, which is like true,
I've
but
seen that scene replicated a
yeah,
lot.
that scene is so great. It was delivered so well, and so it is true. Like all these scientists, these genius level scientists, couldn't do it with all of the resources in the world and giant teams, and this guy did it alone. So I feel like that carries more water than him being a billionaire having access to rare materials or and whatever, and growing up in a privileged world or in a privileged way. So it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and it pissed me off because I understand that the Ironheart character is a character of like, from what I understand, her route to being a superhero is very different, and it comes from a place of being underprivileged and finding a way out. I get that that's the scope that they wanted to go, but throwing shade at the legacy character who has a real hero's journey kind of narrative, it just annoyed me because you're just kind of underplaying what came before you and what kind of established the Iron Man archetype for this character to even exist in the first place. So it's just like it just feels super ungrateful, and it just kind of annoyed me. Um, and we're gonna talk about like pandering and like diversity, not because it's in the interest of the character development, but just to kind of pander to like certain audiences. Like I feel like that a lot of that's going on. The Ironheart character isn't an old character. I thought this was a character from the early 2000s, maybe late 90s. She was Her first appearance was in 2016. I'm like, oh god, that's pretty recent, all things considered.
Yeah.
So she's not really a old legacy character, at least not by my, how what I would consider a legacy character. So I don't know. I don't hate the character. She's kind of whatever to me. It's more so like this whole idea of like you wouldn't be in the position you're in without all of these resources, and that's true to a degree. But when you really start digging into the Iron Man story, at least the cinematic one, I'm not going to speak to the comic book too much because I haven't read all the comics. My knowledge with comic book Iron Man is limited, as I've only really watched the cartoon back in the '90s and seen the movies, and I've read a handful of comics, so I can't speak to that. But based on what I do know, the Tony Stark character had a true hero story uh, structure to his arc and how he became, like, how his story kind of played out over time. And I can't say the same for Riri. I don't know. To be fair, she hasn't had the longevity, right? She doesn't have 3 movies or anything like that. So it's hard to compare, but like starting off with a line like that, which was in the first, I think, 3 minutes of the first episode, already puts a bad taste in my mouth personally. So anyway, that's the introduction. The broader topic is just going to be about just how IPs have been changed and the state of media, specifically movies and TV shows. So with that introduction, I'm sorry if I went kind of long there, but I figured let me just kind of get it all out. The stages have been set. Whoever wants to go forward, the floor is yours.
All right. So I guess if we're doing disclosures, I have not watched it. I have zero intentions of watching it. Um, I have seen synopsis videos on it that from content creators that I value their opinion because they are also writers, so they know about the writing process and how to create characters and scripts and story archetypes. So I trust their opinions. Um, I haven't really watched anything Marvel related since Endgame. That was kind of it. Like, I think that was like the peak of Marvel. That's when everybody and their mom was watching Marvel. I think all of us here in this panel watched Endgame together, and that was it for me. I was like, okay, cool, it ended. Right? Obviously, it didn't end. They were like laying the groundwork for the next phases. But I was like, for me, this is where it ends. Right? The Thanos story has been concluded. The big bad guy won. Then the heroes came together and found a way to win. Cool, neat, I'm out. I was never a big Marvel fan. I'm more of a DC fan, and I'm not saying their cinematic universe is any fucking better. This upcoming Superman movie is going to be a mess, but my simp ass is gonna watch it. So call me what you will. Um, but anyway, as far as the topic goes, if we're talking about the show itself, the show was made when, I guess, this might get a little political. I'm not gonna, get on my soapbox too high, but it has to do with the show. This was made during a very different time in the U.S. And if you look at the first episode in its entirety, you see a lot of those themes in it, like oppression and the state of basically African Americans in the United States and privilege and how money can elevate people and how people without money are disenfranchised. It has a lot of those themes in just the first episode. Um, but the problem with the Ironheart show is that it came out in a United States that's very different than when that show was created. Because that show was supposed to come out a very long time ago, and it just kept getting pushed back and pushed back to the point where Marvel had to release it because they couldn't just scrap it. It was filmed, it was done, and I think they still have plans for this character. So it would be very odd if she just suddenly disappeared when they already hinted that she was going to get a show and that was going to flesh out her character for her upcoming movie appearances. So they had to release it. And it's just cringe. Like, it's just very, very cringe. There's a lot of lines that the characters say. There's a lot of methodologies that they have Williams, because I hate her first name, sorry. It's fucking stupid. Like, what they have her do is just like, oh, we're gonna have black empowerment, so we're gonna make our main character, you know how she earns her money? She steals and she commits crimes. It's just like, come on, like, did anybody see the problem with that, or what? Like, in the couple episode in the first episode, she gets expelled from her school because she's basically passing people and passing their classes for money, which is shown in like the first minute of the opening episode. And then they take her suit because it was made using money from that school, and then she steals the suit. Like, what kind of message are we kind of what are we trying to get across with our character? That her introduction is she's a thief, and then later on she shacks up with criminals. Like, what are we talking about here? But anyway, that's it. I'm ranting too much, so I'll come back to some finer points later. I'll just pass it off to whoever wants to take it next. The show is cringe. It's fucking cringe and disrespectful to the lore that the MCU already established when they used to make good movies and have competent writers.
Okay. I know we're gonna discuss a mixed bag here. So I guess the first thing that I will discuss is what we're talking about, which is the Ironheart movie, and I think I am the contrarian on this panel. I think, well, first and foremost, I was the one that I did watch the entire series, and I thought it was pretty interesting. It wasn't WandaVision or Loki, but in my opinion, it was one of the better series of the MCU. Because there were a couple that were pretty bad. Like I wasn't a fan of Miss Marvel. Didn't get through it. Moon Knight was okay. I can't even remember the rest of them at this moment. But Falcon and the Winter Soldier was pretty decent. Was pretty good. But yeah, I would say I'm the contrarian on this panel because I actually enjoyed the show. In regards to like the comment and the meme that was out there, I feel like it was a tad bit disingenuous to some degree, simply because of the fact that she wasn't the first character to ever really disparage Tony Stark's name. During I think it was the first Avengers, Captain America said to his face, like, without the suit, what are you? And without the suit, Tony Stark is a lot of things. And he even said it himself. He said, like, genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, all of that stuff. So that's something that really adds to his character. And the suit is just a layer. Like, Tony Stark can do a whole bunch of stuff. And I feel like just, like, people just took that because it was Riri and just ran with it. It's like they didn't even listen to the first quote where she was like, I wrote down the quote actually. It said, "I'm here because I can be the greatest inventor of my generation," which doesn't mean much without the resources to bring my ideas to life. After my internship abroad, I realized I'm going to need the equivalent of a vibranium mountain to be great. I need cash, money. And then she proceeds to say, like, do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire? And, to some degree, him being a billionaire is what allowed him to become the Iron Man that he, well, by the MCU standards, was. Because understandably, yes, he was able to build his initial first suit within a box of with a box of scraps. Excuse me. However, the resources that he instilled in his other Mark armors was vast improvements compared to what he did prior. And I looked back, and the first suit that he created didn't even have an AI system. After that remark that she said about Tony Stark being a billionaire, she then proceeded to say, the AI alone will cost millions to make. So another thing that I would also like to add about Riri is that she reveres Tony Stark. Like, in the comic book, I'm just gonna like shed some light there. I don't know if they're gonna like put that into the MCU, but Tony Stark, as far as I recall, briefly becomes like an AI for her. So he was basically mentoring her while she was utilizing her suit. And she also created a suit prior to being a part of MIT as well. People may argue that it was comparable to his first build. I'm not gonna get into that, but she was capable of making a suit without certain resources. So I think that it was kind of where they were trying to imply was that she needed certain resources in order to make the peak of what her ideas want to be. At least that's my thought process behind it, considering the events that led up to it. So it kind of annoyed me with like everyone just going like, oh, yeah, she's disparaging Tony Stark. Yeah, she's shitting on him. Tony Stark did all that stuff. And to some degree, it does sound like that. But you know, if you kind of peel back the layers, all she's really saying is that she's not saying that Tony Stark is not who he is without billions, but she is kind of saying it in a way because again, as Kong stated, that money does go a long way. If you have resources which money can buy, you can do a lot of things, and you compile that along with someone's genius intellect. You have Batman, you have Reed Richards, you have T'Challa, like the whole Wakandan area. Like, if they didn't have the resources that were required to do what they needed to do, they would be limited as to what they are capable of doing. So, that's why I felt like that meme was a bit kind of like, you guys are kind of pushing the narrative there. But that's pretty much my take on that particular thing.
Sorry, my mic disconnected.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Oh God, where to start with this?
Start from the beginning.
So no, I completely 100% disagree with Esoteric in everything he said.
That's fine.
Right. Because the only person who's pushing a narrative is the MCU. The only narrative that's being pushed is that Black people can only come up, or Black people is always struggling in neighborhoods, that Black people can never have money, and that they have to do illegal things to make the resources to make a better place for themselves. It's pushing a narrative that money is everything when it comes down to being, I guess, in a world of superheroes where you need heart, you need courage, you need to be able to make hard decisions and not to blame your shortcomings or feel like your shortcomings is because of your lack of whatever. Tony did say to Spider-Man, if you are nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve to have the suit at all. So if she feels she is nothing without money, she doesn't deserve to have the money at all. That's how I look at it. Me personally.
Intangibles.
Because in the end of the day, the whole show premise doesn't make any sense on the standards of how or what society or the government or power works. Because when Tony made his suit, the government went after him for the suit to weaponize the suit. She, throughout the show, you mean to tell me in New York City, 2025, no one on their cell phone has recorded her flying? Chicago, I mean. No one has recorded her flying through the city. No one recorded the things that blew up throughout the series. No one recorded the fact that she was walking down the street when the suit fell apart on her. None of that recorded. None of it was recorded when she stole the suit from the place that from the school that took the suit back from her. Like, come on. Then on top of that, Wakanda knows about her. Wakanda is very educated about her. So the story is written from Wakanda, whatever, forever, to confiscate the suit she made for the movie and then send her back to her normal lifestyle. Who in their right mind, if you're a Black community and you understood where fearmonger was coming from, because when Where fearmonger was coming from is
Killmonger.
what T'Challa, fearmonger, is what T'Challa ended up adopting in the
Oh,
end
okay.
of Wakanda 1, of Black Panther 1, where he started to go out and helping communities where they were less fortunate African Americans, or what would be considered African Americans. So where did that go?
That's what I
What,
wanted to know.
what, what happened to that?
You had one of the most
What
powerful
happened to the
nations
end?
in the MCU, and it's just like, oh, a genius creator that's our skin color. Because let's be real, Wakanda is very ethno national. Come on, they don't accept others. All right,
Right.
they're gonna just let her go. It's just like, oh, you're a genius. Go back to the hood. Later,
Right.
Wakanda
Like,
forever. Like, what the-
at the end of Black Panther 1, I do recall seeing spaceships landing. Well, not spaceships, but Wakandan ships landing and started giving out resources to the less fortunate community. You mean so they somehow happens to miss Chicago?
I, I guess so.
So what happened to that project? One, two, they accepted Winter Soldier and gave him a whole vibranium arm. So you mean to tell me that for the purpose of MCU, they'll accept a white man with one arm and give him a super powerful arm that can apparently compact into something smaller so he can carry it around, but they did not support the young Black woman who wants to be a superhero and who wants to make high-tech suit of armors to protect whatever city or whatever world, or to become a superhero herself. Hmm. She and the new Black Panther are the same, or roughly the same age, which they had to boost her age because she's actually younger in the comics. She's 15, not college age like in the MCU. But at the end of the day, we're talking about MCU standards, right? So she and Shuri is the same age. Shuri lost everything and developed a potential great friend who can communicate with her or who can relate to her because they both lost parents, they both lost family members, and you send her back on the other side of the planet to continue to struggle?
Some
Hmm.
would call that pulling the ladder up, but I'm just.
So my thing is, who's really pulling an agenda here? Who's really pushing a narrative here? That like it's did they feel like Ironheart would not have been successful if she didn't have to relate to the many overrated content of Black people having to struggle in life? Like, couldn't she just be a Black woman who was able to fall into the opportunity and push her genius intellect because now she has all these resources open to her because of her, I'm gonna say, involvement when fighting Namor? You that wasn't that wasn't a thing, right? That wasn't a thing because we have to go back to the fact that we have to struggle to get anywhere in life, and that we start off with no money, and that Black people in no way, shape, or form have never been born with a silver spoon in their mouth. That there's no Black person in this world has ever been born with a silver spoon in their mouth. But there's no Black person in this world that, based on the talents and the gift that they can bring to communities, didn't help them get by or allow them to be successful. That's not a thing.
Well, well, I see exactly what you're saying in regards to all those points.
That's only a
Um,
part of what I'm saying.
no, I get that's I get that's a part of what you're saying, and you definitely did say a lot there. But my thing is, okay, so they did push the narrative of a struggling Black woman. Yes, they did do that. Prior to that, we got introduced within the MCU to one of the richest, most powerful people in the MCU universe, and they just so happen to be Black. So it's like they
But
can't.
that's not an excuse for Riri
No, no,
Williams.
no. It's not saying that it's an excuse for Riri Williams. What I am saying is that, like, so certain things cannot be written because it kind of relates to some aspects of life. Like, or some stereotypes. I mean,
Well, well, here's the problem, which this is not related to Ironheart. This is related to current MCU. Their writing is just bad, and they are incapable or just unwilling to look at previous entries to keep lore consistent. Now, a lot of people will complain about, oh, what does lore matter? They change the lore all the time. I see it in a lot of fandoms. Lore matters because it creates a thread of consistency throughout your world. You cannot make a television show in the same world where the character originated, okay? Originated from the Black Panther movie. Okay, they came to her. She was so super smart. She was the only one other than the United States government that could make a vibranium detector. So Wakanda came to her and she made it in like a day because she's so super smart. And
okay,
it's just like, go ahead.
so to kind of unpack that, right? Yes, she did stem from the Wakanda movie in the MCU, right? Prior to Endgame, that's when they started her comic. So I'm just, just throwing that out there. Another thing is too, based upon the series, is that she had a scholarship in MIT. She wanted to go to MIT. So the Wakandans allowed her to go to MIT. She was struggling throughout the series, and it was suggested on numerous occasions to call Shuri, but she refused to. She wanted to do things on her own, which is kind of like the theme of her entire arc, is that every time she tries to do things on her own, shit tends to just fall apart. That was pretty much like one of the themes in the movie. So they acknowledged that she knew Shuri. They acknowledged that she had an affiliation with the Wakandans. What had happened was she
which
did.
creates an inconsistency.
How
And
is
I'm
it?
going to tell you the inconsistency is if you go back to the end of Wakanda Forever, she opted to stay in Wakanda and they told her no. She opted to keep her suit and they told her no. They sent her back bare.
Yeah, and they
Period.
and they came to.
Even if they paid for her scholarship or even if they sponsored her for MIT, they sent her back bare. So that means that everything that she got, okay, what happened with Tom Holland's Spider-Man, where he lost everything that Tony endorsed him on, and he had to go and create the cloth suit to become, I guess, these amazing Spider-Man that we know, is a completely different premise. There was a 3-movie long build-up, first and foremost, but there was actual mentorship there. So when he lost everything that where after Tony died, and he lost everything that was connected to Stark Industries, he had that mental stability to say, okay, I can start over and I can still be great. With her, it just seems it because it was so, they did the same thing where she was picked up by people who was able to give her opportunity. She did learn a few things because obviously her brain is like, she has like a genius level into like engineer brain. So anything that, like, when she does something or she engineers something, she downloads the information and then she can replicate it again as long as she has the resources to replicate it. So I understand the whole resource thing and not being able to get this, that, and the third. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is they written it in a way where you as the viewer, if you're just taking in the information, you're gonna say, oh damn, she has to start over from scratch. That's the way they written it. Just like how I had the issue with when we did the Devil May Cry critique for Netflix, where Dante was destroying everybody that was male up until Lady entered the fight, and all of a sudden the story is written that he's thinking with his balls and not his brains. And that's how she was able to overcome him. It's written so that it's forcefully put into a situation where it's like, okay, this character is going to struggle or this character has to start over again. All the answers for Riri Williams was already set up from the first 2 Black Panther movies. All her answers was set up. So you disregard the fact that T'Challa was respectful to Fearmonger, his cousin. You disregard that part where he was so respectful that he said, okay, I'm going to do what my cousin wanted to do, and I'm going to try to help communities outside of Wakanda. That storyline disappeared. Then on top of that, they read it in a way where they take her suit away from her at the end of Wakanda Forever because it's made of vibranium or it's made out of Wakandan tech and they don't want it out there in the world. Well, T'Challa had already set that up when he sent his Wakandan ships out to help out the communities. He's already done that.
But
Villains in the MC.
he wasn't giving them vibranium. He was just giving them other
No,
resources.
but what I'm saying is that it was already set up to be that way. So if her story, if her show had started like, okay, based on what Wakandan did with the resources, with sending out the spaceships, then I would say, okay, she's using the Wakandan, I guess, advantage to create something great for herself. And then she's going to use it to protect the city of Chicago. There's nothing wrong with protecting the neighborhood you come from. Spider-Man does it. He protects Queens all the time. He protects Queens and then he extends out to Manhattan and the rest of the boroughs. But he started out protecting basic streets of Queens. So there's nothing wrong with that aspect. But don't sit there and say, okay, well, this is for the MCU part. Don't sit there and say, okay, well, here are the ladders that were created for her. But because she has to be strong and independent, she's choosing not to climb those ladders. That to me is asinine. That to me is it's ludicrous. I'm not gonna have someone who opened doors for me and then not want to walk through it because I want to create my own success. That's how you create success, by having doors open for you. Period. So that alone creates the whole narrative of, one, we're a stubborn race of people. Two, we're a race of people who turn to struggling situations or who use our struggling situations to make less than stellar or less than smart decisions for ourselves. And then three, we have hidden potential, but because of whatever monetary or societal limitations that we're facing at the moment, we can't show our greatness. And that's not true at all. Look at, let's take DC, for example. Look at Black Lightning. Black Lightning he's a smart superhero, but he's not genius level like what's the one that with the T written on his face?
Mr. Terrific.
Mr. Terrific.
Yeah.
He's not genius level like Mr. Terrific, but he ain't no slouch when it comes to using his head. The man is to my understanding, he's either a principal or a teacher. Okay, so his income isn't that great, but he doesn't complain about his income. His superhero or his heroic standards doesn't complain about the struggle of being a Black man. His superhero standards comes from the struggle of keeping his streets clean or keeping his neighborhood clean or keeping kids in school. That was Black Lightning's thing.
Yeah, but
So-
you're also failing to put out there that the reason why he wasn't complaining about money was simply because he had a partner who was affiliated with the government who was supplying his
that's
suits.
the show. I'm talking about the comic book. That's
You're talking
the
about
show.
the comic books?
Right. That's the
Okay.
show.
Okay.
You remember, shows always have their little sidekick dudes. They always have their little sidekick or their, as what Ned in the Spider-Man series called the man in the chair.
Well, what's his
That's
name
how
was
these
in there
TV shows
too.
are set up.
In the comics, what's his name was in there too. I
Yes,
forgot
he
his
was
name.
there. He was there, but Black Lightning was able to hold his own as a superhero. This person now, or in this situation, even in the comic books, if they went to the comic books, first and foremost, the MCU already switched Riri Williams from being Tony Stark's protege to technically Spider-Man being Tony Stark's protege.
Okay.
She actually was his protege. Like, even before he became AI, he heard of what she did, because you don't just create a suit and then steal it back and that's not put out there. He heard that because that's an actual thing she did in the comic books. She stole some stuff and she made a suit out of it. It was confiscated. She stole the suit back. When he heard that and he went to visit her and sat down and spoke with her and saw that she's just a young girl who just wants to be a superhero and wants to protect, everything that's important to her, he endorsed her to be a superhero. And then that's
Just to cut
how.
in real quick, not just that, but I'm reading the official Marvel.com website. I'll link it in the description. He recruited her and worked with her to fight Captain Marvel, and basically almost gave up his life because he went comatose after that fight, and that's when he became the AI to further,
to further continue working with her. And that's how
Right.
some of her suits has the hot red and gold colors to it, because it was directly designed with Iron Man. Like some of her suits is red and gold, like his original suits are, like his Mark 7 suit is. So when he went in comatose is when he became the AI, and then she downloaded him into her helmet, and that's how he continued his mentorship. So let's not play this whole Marvel the MCU universe is being twisted by those who's looking at it from the outside. You can be a fan of the content and just call the content for what it is. It's bullshit. And I still watch the Marvel comics. I still watch the Marvel movies. I did like Captain America Brave New World. I liked it as a movie, but there was things in there that I did disagree with overall, and there were things in there politically that I did agree with overall. So it's not like I'm not going to turn a blind eye to the nonsense that's being put out there. And that one line alone shows how, even though she's a genius level engineer, because that's what she is. She's a genius level engineer.
Lacks a lot of maturity.
Right. She lacks a lot of maturity because she's blaming her lack of success in comparison to Tony Stark based on something that Tony Stark have that she doesn't have. But in actuality, Riri Williams' character is a genius intellect engineer, which means she can create machinery. She can create things, build things, repair things. Tony Stark is a genius level on everything. My man read one book.
The main difference from
and
Tony
became
Stark to Riri is,
It's
like
resources.
you said, Riri's an engineer. No,
To me,
Tony
it's
Stark
resources.
well, you're not even letting me finish. Tony Stark is an innovator. Riri, she plagiarized all of the information. She's genius, but she's not an innovator. That's the main difference between the two, at least from what I understand from reading, the comic resources and just doing light research on the character, and from what you guys are telling me.
Okay.
I'm not against the character. I think the character can be fine. I just think they're leaning too hard on one narrative, and it's doing the character a disservice. That's
A
my opinion.
disservice. That's my thing. Because I am when she was first introduced, I remember even saying to Zeta, I was saying to him that I was happy that they introduced someone of our color and that she's Iron Man based and all that stuff. That's fine. That's fine. And that she's Iron Man based, since Iron Man is my favorite hero and everything. I was okay with it. I am 100% okay with her existence. What I am not okay with is how the MCU has changed her character. And even in the comic book, she was obnoxious. Because there's a whole comic book page based on my research, and I can link that. There's a whole comic book page where she cut her teacher off because the teacher is like, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? She's like, a scientist. The teacher's like, okay, cool. And that answer from the teacher was not good enough for her. She wanted pushback from the teacher. She wanted the teacher to say, "Oh, you should be a nurse or a professor, because those are prestigious jobs." And she wanted to have a whole argument about why being a scientist as a young Black woman is better than being a teacher. So even in the comic book, she had some level
I thought it
of.
was astronaut. I thought she wanted to be an astronaut.
No, it was always, well, the comic book strip that I read was scientist. She says it, and she goes back and forth, and is like, so you have genius level intellect on being an engineer, but you're a very immature character overall. Even in the comic books, you're consistently immature. So that statement I can understand it came from a sense of frustration. Because when we are frustrated, especially when we see our paychecks and we see the amount of bills we have to pay, we get frustrated, and we'll blame other things we'll blame our shortcomings on other things, or we'll blame our financial standards on other things. Like, I get members all the time who blame the reason why their account is so low is because banks takes their money and invest it and don't give anything back to them. You know, like they don't want to take the accountability of, okay, well, you made bad financial decisions and here you are. So it's, I get that part of it, because what you're looking at it as, okay, well, you're looking at the face value of, you don't know much about Tony Stark. You don't know much about the struggles he went through. All you know is what you see on TV, is that he's an overly confident, sometimes even cocky character with a lot of money in his pocket. So that comes from a certain level of ignorance. And that's where I excuse it, because again, I can look at Steve Jobs on the TV and I can say, this guy, man, whole family is rich for the rest of his life. I'm here struggling to put a burger together to eat. But at the end of the day, I don't know Steve Jobs necessarily to know where he was born, how he was born, what kind of struggles he went through, if he was ever financially struggling in his life. I don't know anything about the man per se. So it's easy for me to say, or to complain about him based on the success that he has monetarily. But that still comes from a sense of ignorance on the background of the person, if I'm making sense here.
No, you
So
absolutely are making sense.
right. So the whole premise of her is that her as a character is amazing. It's fine. It's great. But at the end of the day, what the MCU did was, in that little short sentence, they made not only the character that boosted the MCU to its success, they downplayed him on so many levels. And I do find that to be a disrespectful comment, and that should not have been in the show to begin with. If she was complaining, if she was going to say something to Tony Stark, she should have said something along the line of, like, okay, like in the beginning where she was on the video with her friend and she was like, she's going to be bigger than Tony Stark. I don't find that offensive at all. That's goal oriented. That's setting yourself on to aim for the stars, so that at worst you'll land on clouds, which means you'll still be successful even if you don't surpass Tony Stark, but at least you're setting yourself on a high standard to get there. And I completely, I don't find that to be a disrespectful comment whatsoever. I did see some videos where people even were upset about that part of it, but I think as long as you are goal oriented, why not try to compare yourself to someone, or say, I am going to be better than Steve Jobs. I am going to be richer than Bill Gates. I am going to own more land and property than Donald Trump. You can say that about yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't say, oh, the only reason why Donald Trump became president is because he's a rich white man. Don't say that. Because in the end of the day, like, unless you know Donald Trump's history per se, and this is only me just using him as an example to get my point across, unless you know his history of how he gained his financial standards, then you're just downplaying the success of the person. And when she said that, she's downplaying not only the founding member of the Avengers, you're downplaying the hero that he is, and you're also downplaying the doors that he's opened for you, because you were so unoriginal, you couldn't even make a suit that looked like your own. You took parts from his old armors that you found around the place, and you took scraps and then you put it all together and you made a suit that looks, functions, and acts just like Iron Man's Mark's suit. That whole comment should not exist.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll say something real quick because I know Eso wants to get his piece in, and I get it. So, this, I'm gonna bring it back to like the consistency or lack of consistency with anything post end game. Now, again, like I said in my initial setup, this show was pushed back, so this show was supposed to exist sometime after Wakanda Forever, but it doesn't. And you can't take what has come after Wakanda Forever and make people forget that. Vibranium is no longer special because Captain America Brave New World came out, and now we have a giant creature that has adamantium. So I'm sorry, Wakanda, your metal's not special. We got better metal now. You cannot take that memory out of people's heads. They're gonna, even if the Ironheart show takes place after Wakanda, people already know Brave New World and they already know Thunderbolts. You can't take that out of their head. So that again, consistency or lack thereof. And keeping in line with consistency, you have to understand in the world of the MCU, Tony Stark is a hero. He sacrificed his life to save humanity. And if you take it out of if you take it out of the world and into our world, that's what people saw in the movie theater. They saw that iconic scene. So to have a character now say, "Yo, Tony Stark's kind of whack." No shade though, you are throwing shade, and people are going to get pissed at that, and they're going to dislike your character, and they're not going to see her accomplishments. They're not going to see the good things she does. They're going to see, well, what I saw in the movie theater, who's a guy with a wife and a child who just wanted to stay home and be a family man, risk his life and ultimately give up his life to save this world. And those are good values to have in society. And I'm going to have this fucking
No shade though.
no shade though. I'm not gonna have this hood rat over here fucking like throwing shade. Like, I don't like you. I don't like you, and I don't want to see your story. I hope you fail. That's what a lot of people are thinking. But anyway, I just want to keep it with the consistency because current Marvel writers, it's like they forget there's other movies before this one. Consistency in your lore matters, and that's why we're having problems with what we're having. Anyway, Esso, I know you wanted to respond to a lot, so I'll let you respond.
No, I mean, listen, I get both you guys' points when it comes to consistency. Yes, that definitely matters. And law, I don't understand. I don't understand why. Just going a little bit off base here. I don't understand why adamantium is the strongest in the MCU when it's supposed to be actually vibranium. That is the legit fact that vibranium is supposed to be the toughest metal. Well, it's supposed to be higher than adamantium, but whatever. Whatever they're doing with that kind of annoys me. So I definitely understand with the inconsistencies. And I also understand that being the viewer and looking at it from a perspective of like this chick is besmirching Tony Stark's name because in phase 1 he pretty much started the whole endeavor of what led up to the opportunities and like the heroism of all the other people within his team. Like without him, that it wouldn't have been where it was for phase 1. Like that's just absolutely true. What I take issue with is that I personally I don't think that the comment, objectively speaking, is that big of a deal because again, I think it was her frustration pertaining to her just not having the resources to put what she has in her brain into fruition. Because again, honestly speaking, yes, Tony Stark is phenomenal. He's amazing. He's able to build shit that nobody can build with less than. However, how did we come up with the Mark II? I think it was the Mark 1, 2, 3, and so on armor. The whole thing with the is it called nanites? I think it's the nanite suit. That shit requires money. That requires resources. So I think that's what she was going towards because she was able to create a suit on her own without said money. As far as the Wakandans and all that stuff and that inconsistency there, as far as I know is that times was down. She went back to MIT of her own volition, and then she messed that up. And then throughout the series, she ain't want to call Shuri because she ain't want no help from anyone. Everybody was offering help, and the theme was, I'm good, I don't want to be bothered, until she had an epiphany and was like, no, I actually do need help. But yeah, I think that her comment was basically saying that, yes, Tony Stark is great, but with his finances and what and the monetary assets he has backing him during the time he was alive made him even greater. It allowed him to be greater.
Right.
And
so
that goes with
you make that comment, but then turn around and deny or not want to reach out to the financial help that you do have. But then you make the comment out of the frustration of, yeah, Tony Stark is great.
The main problem is that she wants
doesn't
to
make
be a
sense.
perpetual victim, and that's not likable. Like you come off as like you're a fucking dickhead, bro. I don't like when you're trying to help somebody who needs the help, and they're like, "No, I'm cool, I'm cool, I'm cool, I'm cool," and they're obviously not. but they want to sit there and complain in the same breath of "I'm cool, I got it" when they don't have it,
But
and
woe
then
is
complain
me.
that they don't have it because they don't have enough. And this is like, I'm trying to help. It's like, oh, that nobody likes dealing with people like that. In the synopsis that I read on Marvel.com, I read it and I was like, what? That doesn't. And the first thought that came to my mind is the word pandering. In the story, and this is canonical, Blade is the character who convinces her to go back to MIT. And I'm like, Blade? I like Blade, but
That's random
Blade?
as fuck.
Why Blade? Because he's black? Really? That's
Oh,
that's canonical. That doesn't make any sense. And this goes back to what Gunnar was saying about consistency and respecting the lore and having flow. It doesn't. She's just random, and it's just like it just feels like pandering to me. If I was to rewrite the Ironheart character, I would go one of two routes. I would either go the anti-villain, the anti-hero route, where she's just as smart as Tony Stark and has engineering capabilities like Tony Stark and Reed Richards, all these other people. But she allows, if you're gonna make her like this thief, criminal, whatever, lean into it. And then let that be her story, and let her find redemption to become a hero. That would have been way more interesting than what we got. Or have her be like obsessed with technology and wanting to be the next Iron Man or Ironheart, but she lacks the resources. You could go with that narrative, but her heart and courage and determination is the difference maker that allows her to compete at that superhero level. They didn't do any of that. So it's just like, it's hard for me to relate to the character. It's hard for me to like the character. And then when she's throwing shade, she is throwing shade, even though she ends it with no shade. It's shade. When she throws shade at Tony Stark and makes it, tries to belittle his accomplishments, a character who I do like, it makes me like her less. So it's like, ugh. And I'm gonna say something. It's gonna sound fucked up, but like, these are the thoughts in my head. Esoteric. I feel like you're too willing to accept slop, and then you want to justify why it's okay, and that's frustrating for me as like another fan of like the medium, because it's like you should want more, you should want better, you should expect more from the people who are trying to give you entertainment, and people you're giving money to watch this stuff. Your expectations should be higher, and the fact that you kind of accept this like what I consider slop, and it's like it's fine, and you try to justify it. I don't know, man. It's just disappointing. So
okay. I mean, okay. I mean,
I
we can
think,
definitely
like I
agree.
said, it's okay. Like I do like, again, when they introduced her in 2016. I was in the room on the computer with Zeta, and me and him was talking. He was less than stellar about the character, but I was excited. I was ecstatic that the fact that the character exists and they did something like that. And till this day, I still do like the idea of the character as a protege to who Iron Man is or what Iron Man was, and being a young black woman. But what I don't like is how the MCU is portraying the character. And I'm honestly really, really, really annoyed of the narrative of everything that they do for people of color. It has to be people of color that's struggling. For example, let's take even Transformers, Rise of the Rise of the what was it called? The one with the art
One with
with the
Beast Wars in it.
yeah, the one with the Beast
Yeah,
Wars
Rise of
character.
something. Yeah, I
Right.
unfortunately saw that. I dislike that actor, and he's
I didn't.
also in Ironheart.
wait, is this
I
the
didn't.
one where they're like in New York, in the Bronx, and he's like,
Yes.
I'm from
Yes.
apartment 2F and blah blah. That
Yes.
fucking pissed me
Oh,
off in
but
that
by the
movie.
way,
I
I'm
was like,
I didn't
Puerto Rican.
see
Look
it.
at the flag. Look, see, look. If you didn't know, I'm Puerto
Rise
Rican.
of the Beast Machine
pandering,
or something like that.
pandering. I hate that
Right.
shit. But anyway,
And
go ahead.
it's the same thing. It's like, oh, this character is coming from a struggling neighborhood, and he can't make any money to pay for his brother's sickness, which was never really solved in the movie to begin with. Um, but that's where the whole premise starts. The whole premise starts with him doing these little jobs, and his brother is sick, and his mother can't afford the payments, and they're gonna cut off the insurance, and his brother doesn't have much longer to live. How did that end up tying into him being into a fight with super machines from a different world, from a different planet? I don't know, but that's what happened. And at the end of the movie, the brother's still sick and the brother stayed still poor. Nothing changed on that. All that
Optimus
changed is
just
that
comes by,
Optimus
gives a
became
high
a
five.
better leader.
Like, what up?
Like,
Oh, this neighborhood sucks. I'm going to DC later. President
you
wants
know,
lunch.
exactly. So it's it's a Hispanic family in the Bronx, and there's first and foremost, why does it have to be a Hispanic family in the Bronx? Like,
I'm,
who did that? Who did that level of research?
It's to pander to the lowest common denominator. That's how I feel. It's just like it feels so like you're looking down on people. And mind you, this take this for what it's worth. The guy who invented Riri Williams was a 50-year-old white guy. I don't think he understands black culture as much as he might think. So I don't know, but I take that for what it's worth. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's my whole thing and that's what annoyed me further about the situation was like it's just like I feel like we have to change that standard if you want. Again, yes, Wakanda's exists, but Wakanda existed from way back when Black Panther was first introduced. But at the end of the day,
Yeah,
yes,
but it
while
could work though because the Killmonger character proved that the struggle
exactly
narrative can work if executed properly,
if
and
executed
and
properly,
if the way the story is kind of told makes sense along with the overarching story, it can work. But this is
which
not an example
his
of it working.
his struggling is what geared him to being such a fierce opponent, but also show that he can be a great leader. Because if his idea wasn't to just blow up everything and then start over again, if his idea was just simply reaching out to communities and, like what T'Challa took the peaceful, but the same, he took his idea but took a peaceful route to it. It would have shown that Fearmonger would have been a great leader on this, as on par with T'Challa. Like those are actual struggles to me.
Agreed.
I think as even though people may complain about Wakanda Forever, I think Shuri's storyline was amazing. Her development was amazing because she struggled. She struggled actual struggles. She struggled emotional struggle. She struggled physical struggle because that fight with Namor was not easy. Um, she struggled on so many levels to develop herself as a character. She lost her brother. She lost her mother slash queen. She lost troops. She was angry. She went and she took the herb and she saw the one person she didn't want to see, but in actuality is what she was feeling. She battled vengeance. She battled remorse. Like like she gained my respect as one of the female characters in the MCU in that one movie alone, more than all the other ones who've had TV series. And I think and she's born with a silver spoon in her mouth. So yes, rich Black people can struggle. They can go through turmoil. They can go through hurdles. They can come up with roadblocks. It's not a it's a thing still because they showed how human she was, regardless of the opportunities that were open to her. So I am really sick of these movies and TV show and streaming shows where they feel like the only narrative to show a Hispanic family, like what Transformers did or what Riri Williams is going through. Like I'm over this shit. I'm over it. Like we can be more, and you can portray more out of us as a culture people. Like I'm over it. So there's many things that's wrong with the show for me, from not just alone the comment that she said about Tony Stark, but also just the overall premise, and then her immature attitude behind it too doesn't exactly help me want to see her growth as a character. It doesn't really help. It's very obnoxious. It is a very obnoxious thing.
I got two more points, but I want to give Esoteric a chance to respond. I think he asked something.
Okay. I thought you was just gonna say what you was gonna say. Listen, I get all you guys' points, okay, and I completely understand that the certain tropes that are introduced into certain movies, yes, some of them is getting tiring, but it's like here's my question: because I didn't watch the whole Transformers thing. So the whole Hispanic scene in the Bronx, okay, that was a problem or whatnot. But when we got, what was it, the second Transformers movie, when they had the two like short cars, I forgot their name, and they were like impersonating black people. They had the gold tooth and shit like that in their mouths, and they were like really acting like super hip and hood and shit. That was fine, like, because people wasn't saying much about that. You hated them. You hated them, but nobody said anything about those two characters. Like, there was nobody batted an eyelash about those two characters.
Those are comedy relief characters. They were not the main characters whatsoever. We're talking about main characters here. But if you want to turn this conversation to are stereotypes wrong in film and movies, I mean, we could have that conversation. But that's not really what we were talking about.
No, I'm not turning it into that, because basically what I'm trying to convey is this, right? So I didn't watch all the other MCU shows that probably got the negative connotation associated with it, but we got Black Panther, which was great. We got Falcon. Falcon's story arc was phenomenal. Like, I don't know as far as like the black characters in terms of like, yeah, they probably maybe to some degree took a step down, but it's like, I think it's a different narrative compared to what we got for the other black characters. I mean, can we agree on that? Because there wasn't much of a...
Well, you have to provide examples for me to like agree or disagree with you. But I'll say this: if Riri was a white girl or whatever, none of my opinions would change. Like, it has very little to do with her being black and more to do with her being unlikable and ungrateful. I hate that. But
no, that's completely understandable. But what I'm trying to say is this, right? Again, I'm speaking specifically of the black MCU characters. We got one character who worked alongside Captain America, and then he later became Captain America. We got another character who was the King of Wakanda, and he was like, I believe he's the richest person in the MCU. I could be wrong. I'm gonna have to research that, but he's definitely one of when he was alive. Then we had another character who faced trials and tribulations, which was his little sister, who suffered loss and all that stuff, right? So now we get Riri Williams, who's dealing with like stuff within her community. She's making bad decisions and things like that. Like, what I'm trying to say is that we got 3 characters that were different from the narrative, and then we get one from the... Like, why is it such an issue with this one particular character?
I'll tell you why. Because I didn't watch the second Black Panther movie. I kind of want to now because of what Wolf was saying, and I probably will because...
Well, why didn't you? Why didn't you?
I just didn't. After Endgame, it was over for me. I didn't watch the Eternals. I didn't watch the Shang-Chi, whatever the fuck Chinese guy movie. I didn't watch. I didn't watch the. I don't. What is his name?
Yeah, you were right. Shang-Chi.
No,
okay, I got it right.
No, my man said Shang-Chi. Look at
it. I didn't watch that. I didn't watch Black Widow. I didn't watch The New World yet. I didn't watch Thunderbolts. Dude, at Endgame, that was the Endgame for me. Like, I didn't feel motivated to watch anything else because I didn't have an attachment to any of the other movies that came after. Except, no, I'm wrong. I did watch the third Spider-Man movie. Was it Homecoming? Not Homecoming. The one with all 3 Peter Parkers. That one. I watched that. That was the last.
No, was it No Way Home?
No Way.
Because there was
Spider-Man 3.
There was Far From Home, there was No Way Home, and then there was Homecoming. I think Homecoming was the first one. Then Far From Home was when they went to Europe, and then No Way Home was when basically everybody got hit. Their stuff
the
erased.
Universes had like crossed over, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right, that was the last Marvel movie I saw, and I saw it because I'm attached to A, Spider-Man, and B, there was 2 other movies preceding that movie. So again, I had like attachment to the lore of the Tom Holland's Peter Parker story. So I was like, I gotta go see this. Especially Tobey Maguire's back. I'm there, right? Yeah. So like I went to see that, but everything else I didn't watch it. I didn't not watch the second Black Panther movie because it's like, it's a movie with black characters. Oh, it's now a female Black Panther. Like, I didn't care. I think it makes sense for Shuri to take up the Black Panther mantle who the fuck else is gonna do it, right? Like that made sense to me. I just never watched it because I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of over Marvel movies. That's why I didn't see it. But now I'll probably go watch it because Wolf is speaking highly of it, and the little bit that he told me, it sounds like a competent movie, right? One of the points that I wanted to make was a hero's journey, which is like a narrative, a way to tell a story. You can Google this. Hero's journey, also known as a monomyth, is a common narrative structure or archetype found in mythology, literature, and film. It describes a hero's journey of departure, initiation, and return, where the hero undergoes transformation through facing challenges and ultimately returning home changed. I don't know if Riri really fits that archetype, and if she does, I guess you could argue she does. I don't think it's executed particularly well, right? Another point that I wanted to point out, when you introduce a new character in the shoes of a legacy character, you got to do a lot of work to get people on board with that new character, right?
Yeah.
Power Rangers came out after the first initial Power Rangers. I never watched Power Rangers again. Why? Because that ain't Tommy, that ain't Jason, that ain't Zach. I don't know these people. I'm done, right? Death Note was the other show that came to mind. After L dies and Nier picks up the mantle, I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I was rooting for Light the whole time. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. The same can be said about Riri taking up Tony Stark's position. Those are big shoes to fill. So it's up to the writers and up to the cast and the actors to really, really fucking nail it and knock it out the park. Because if you don't, you've lost them, and for good. I have no interest in watching the Ironheart show because just a little bit that I saw, it just puts me off. I could watch a million other things, right?
Yeah, understand.
So I don't know. Those are the last few things I wanted to point out. I don't want this to go longer because I know we're over time. But anyway, one of you guys can have the final word, and then we'll close it out.
So, I'll just refute kind of what Esso said about some other black characters in MCU. I don't think Hawkman is Captain America. He's not my Captain America. Bucky Barnes was right there. Why is he not Captain America? I'll tell you why. Because Saint Floyd died a couple years ago, and they were like, let's make the Falcon Captain America because that would be good.
Well,
PR.
Falcon he did become Captain America in the comics, no?
Yeah.
Sure. But if you want to talk about MCU, which was made for normies who've never picked up a comic book in their life, Bucky Barnes was more deserving of it. My man got beat up by Ant-Man, okay? Falcon got a shit rocked by Ant-Man. That's not Captain America material. I'm sorry. They did that because they were pandering.
But that's what I do love about that's what one thing I
You don't sit here and tell me that fucking the Falcon is a worthy Captain America?
Here's the thing,
what I'm saying is what I like about the Brave New World movie is that there's a whole scene where he messed up and his protege gets injured, and then he has a conversation with Bucky, and he's saying to Bucky that one, he doesn't feel like he deserved the shield, that Bucky deserves the shield, and then two, he was saying that a part of the pressure that he was going through in the movie was living up to Steve Rogers' footprints, like walking in Steve Rogers' shoes, and he felt like he couldn't do it because he's not a super soldier, and that he should have tried to take a super soldier serum because apparently it was offered to him and he denied it. But then he started to feel doubt in himself about being the new Captain America. So I like that because he was willing to acknowledge the differences between his choices or his limitation versus Steve Rogers' limitations.
Okay. I
respect that about the movie.
I'm going to shoot out that whole argument because they literally filmed an additional scene where they brought Bucky's character when he was talking to Falcon, and he was jerking him off under the table saying, no, Steve Rogers united America. You unite the world. That's why you're Captain America. Get the fuck out of here. Tell him and his pigeon ass to fly somewhere else, man. Fucking this pandering nonsense.
That was just my point.
The Falcon hate is...
No, it's just
I don't know if I agree with you because I feel like if you look at, I hear you. I think it is pandering. I think you're half right. And I could be totally wrong, right? I don't know. We're not in the fucking Marvel fucking brainstorming creative room, so we don't know. But I don't know. If you look at the Captain America story arc, I'd argue that Falcon is a suitable candidate to replace Steve Rogers. I don't know. Based off like the narrative that we saw on screen, it lines up. Although I agree that Bucky, I think, also should have been considered for that role, or maybe even actually taken it, or they could have worked together or something like that. Which I think they had their show. They basically worked together, right? So.
Sure, this could go on 3 hours, but
Yeah, I was
that's
gonna-
my
I mean,
piece.
we can.
Soldier was set up to be Thunderbolts, to be I'm assuming the leader of the Thunderbolts, which I believe Winter Soldier did end up, like that he is an actual character on the Thunderbolts comic book team. So really,
That's a whole nother travesty of a movie. Fucking Gold Superman beat the shit out of all of them. That's my Avengers. Anyway.
Yeah, I did not see it. I mean, I know we spoke a lot. We can definitely make a part 2 if you guys want to, because I know there was other topics that weren't covered. That's entirely up to you guys, because we did stay on Riri for quite some time. So that's entirely up to you guys. If y'all want to do a part 2 about the Thunderbolts and about, characters being swapped and stuff like
It'll
that.
just be me making fun of the writing, because the writing's trash. Like the current Marvel, it's just bad writing.
Agreed on that. I don't think we need a part 2. In the beginning when I said we were going to cover other things, that was just kind of give us a buffer in case we ran out of things to say. Clearly, that didn't happen. So I'm good with leaving it here. But I'm down for a second episode if majority says if you guys have more to say. I don't think I have much more to add to the overall topic. Honestly, I think I've said everything I needed to say, or someone else has said it. So no need for me to repeat it.
I would just tear apart modern Marvel, so it wouldn't be constructive. It would just be, it would be constructive, but I have no love for current Marvel, and
Okay.
it's a lot of it extends outside the comic book world, because a lot of decisions were made by Disney, which we know current Disney is the way it is, and injected in to the Marvel movies. So that's getting into real world, and yeah, anyway. Because it does affect the movies, which is why Riri says and does the things she does. Because there's real world being injected into comic book movie.
Okay.
All right, so it sounds like that's it. And again, I don't think I'd be as critical of this character if it wasn't for that line. That line really put me off. But to some, it's not a big deal. It's just, it's just Hollywood. So anyway, you like what you like. This is why the podcast is interesting. I like having these conversations, especially ones that we disagree on, because I think that's when we get a lot of mileage out of the conversation. That's me personally. I like friction. I like resistance. So these conversations are better than the ones that were just like, I agree with you. No, I agree with you too, and I agree with you. It's like those are boring. Those are boring. So I like more controversial topics like this. Hopefully, those listening, you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. This is a very hot topic. Well, not a very hot topic. It can be a hot topic. Depends on who you're talking to. But like, if you're passionate about either side, let us know in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed the conversation. Dislike it if you think, I'm an asshole for disliking it, or if you think Wolf is an idiot for disliking it, or whatever. Or we think we're both.
I would also like to apologize for my daughter to being a part of the podcast. She may be a young
very
black
valid
woman, right? A few words, but she needed to put her point across too.
That's it.
With smiles on her adorable little face.
She's a valued member, so.
Yeah, Google Gaga, agreed. I'm with you on that one. So if you enjoyed the video, definitely like it, dislike it if you disliked it, comment down below, let us know what you think, give us some topic ideas in the comment section as well. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe for more content. We do episodes like this every single week, 12 p.m. Eastern. We've been doing it for the past 3-4 years almost, so we're pretty consistent. We're always here. So unless one of us croaks or something like that, then I think we're going to continue on for a while. Definitely check the description for all of the links, the articles. I'm going to link the meme. I'm going to link the Marvel.com synopsis of the Ironheart story in case you want to read about it. And also check out all of the social medias down there as well. So we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Discord. And Mr. Esoteric Skills streams every week, 2 times a week, on twitch.tv. So check him out there, give him a follow, and check out his content. He streams all kinds of things. I think the last thing you streamed was like Call of Duty, right?
Yeah.
But he also plays other things as well. He played
Good games and
Nightmare.
sometimes slop.
He definitely plays slop for sure. He played Horizon 2
Sometimes slop.
And Assassin's Creed.
and Assassin's Creed Shadows, another slop, mediocre ass game. He is a man of many walks of life. He will play anything.
But he did play Pokemon Yellow, and that's a pretty good game.
But he also played Pokemon Arceus, which was trash. So
I'm open to different games. That's what it is.
my
so.
man will play
whatever.
whatever, right? And so check him out. Maybe he'll play a game you like. Maybe he'll play the game you dislike. And maybe you'll enjoy watching him suffer playing through the game that you might dislike. And I don't know, all kinds of content there. So anyway, check it out. Give him a follow. Subscribe to the channel. Give the video a like. Comment down below, and we'll see you next week.